anytime I was exposed to someone with a lot of money, his next comment was, she's probably in sales and they serve a lot of people.
So many people believe that sales is a skill that you're born with. And I would be curious to get your thoughts on that.
I really think he's right here. I think I'm ashamed to sell.
Meet Macy McNeely, one half of the Salesgirls, who have trained over 2,000 female entrepreneurs to master the art of conversation and the science of persuasion.
It takes just as much energy to think about best case scenario as it does worst case scenario.
Can you be a good salesperson if you're operating from this scarcity mindset?
Like, good salespeople have the conviction and the belief, and they're able to look at someone in the eye with certainty and say, we did a $1.2 million hour. What we usually do in a year, we did an hour, okay?
In this episode, Macy reveals why women thrive in sales and how you can too.
What if this doesn't work? What if I embarrass myself? What if I lose it all? Your job as a salesperson is to keep them focused on what if it does work? What if it is possible? What if the payoff is even better than you could ever imagine? Motherhood and entrepreneurship are the perfect combination. And I'll tell you why.
Macy, the mission of the Life Edge is to help people learn, discover, and find their edge in life. So what throughout life has been your edge, the thing that has made you unique?
So you're asking throughout my whole life, not just in my career era, is that correct?
It could be throughout your whole life, or it could just be what has made you successful in career. That's up to you.
You know, there's so many, like, an edge is like a small advantage, right? And so there's so many small things that come to my mind. But I will say one of the greatest edges I think that I have is the fact that I was raised in a very specific home. And I like to describe it as a sales cultured home. And what I mean by that is, my dad was an entrepreneur, and my dad was an amazing salesman. And he really raised us in this culture of enthusiasm, this culture of excellence. And he communicated with me with sales principles. And what I mean by that is he got information in a very loving way. He was always positioned as on my team. And he really sold me on my future, my payoff when I make good decisions. And my mom, she stayed home, so she wasn't really in sales, but she was, of course, there, super nurturing and all of those amazing things. But my dad really raised me in this excellence, enthusiasm, and then also selling me all the time on the payoff of whatever I did today. And what that ended up doing was setting me up to be able to think about the future all the time. I rarely thought about the past. I rarely even thought about today even. I always thought about, okay, what's possible for the future? When I do this today, what could happen for me? And that was huge. You don't even realize that, you don't realize how the dots connect until you look back. And he always seeded the belief in me that when I saw someone that seems like they made a lot of money, they were a good person. I actually didn't grow up. He didn't even start his business until he was in his 30s. And I feel like really recently he started to experience a lot of success. So we didn't grow up with a lot of money, but anytime I was exposed to someone with a lot of money, his next comment was, oh, he's probably in sales, or she's probably in sales, and they serve a lot of people. They are probably really amazing people that help a lot. I have never, ever had the thought that sales is gross or sales are slimy or they're weird or stay away from them. It's always been, they are good people, persuading for good. And so now that I am a sales girl, and that is what I do, is I train women on how to sell. I would say my greatest superpower is knowing how to persuade. By far. Sales girls are able to, words come out of their mouth and money is a byproduct of that. Words come out of their mouth and they end up getting their way. They get what they want in life. And this is why it's so important to have these skills into the hands of the good people, because persuading for good is key to helping other people win and for you to win as well.
And I love that you started with the beginning as far as sharing your story growing up with in the household with your dad and him being a salesman, but also just teaching you the how do you put it, the good attributes of life and to look at life from an open-minded perspective. And I really enjoy your story into sales because you grew up in a sales household, but you didn't initially go into sales. You went into ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually you're like, I've got to get into this whole sales thing because what I'm doing right now isn't working for me. And so many people believe that sales is a skill that you're born with. And I would be curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's good. It's what I hear a lot. It's not uncommon. Yeah, so my dad actually really encouraged us, not necessarily to be in sales, but to understand sales. I had a sister, and I don't know what was going on in his mind, but I think if I had to guess, I think he would be thinking, if my girls can know how to sell, they're going to be okay. Like if I can pass down not money, but the brain that's able to create money, that is how you create a legacy. And he didn't really push a certain career. It was just like, okay, girls, if something were to happen to you, or if something were to happen to your husband, or if you never were to get married, or whatever the case may be, you're going to be okay. And, actually growing up in ministry and working in ministry, I cannot tell you how many friends of mine whose husbands, like they were stay-at-home moms, and their husbands ended up like in rehab a lot of times because of alcohol or drug addiction, like way more often than not. And they are sitting at a desk, not even knowing how to log into their bank statement, bank accounts, not even knowing how to pay their bills because they've like never even had to entertain the idea of how to earn money. And I knew that my dad really was like, hey, if you girls can just know how to do this, you'll add value in any scenario, in any company, in any organization. So he would actually bring workbooks to our beach trips. He would bring projectors to our beach trips. He would do anything and everything to try to get the skills in our mind. And I resisted it so much. I told my dad, I'm like, listen, that is old school. People don't do it that way anymore. Like, I'm not going to be, I'm not doing that. That is dumb. I would bring my boyfriend then, my husband now, I would bring my boyfriend over. And he would make us this steak dinner. And he would say, hey, if you're going to sit here and eat dinner at my house, we're going to listen to this book called The Psychology of Winning. And he would play this book in the loudspeakers of our home. And he would say, you're going to eat in silence and listen to this. I mean, he was just desperate to transfer the mental software that would make it all work, the success operating software. And it wasn't until I was in ministry, actually. I got married at 22 and I got my job super young. And I'd worked so hard in school. Like I was always striving for excellence. And I remember doing this work and feeling like the biggest milestones of my life were behind me. Graduating college, getting married, finding the job that you work so hard for. And I'm like, this is it? Are you kidding me right now? Like now I just have to sit around and wait till I have kids. Like what? And I was a nanny in college. So I knew I didn't want kids right away. I knew how hard it was. And I was like, okay, no, this is not the movie that I'm meant to be in. No. And so I actually watched some people on social who would tell these stories of how all they would do is share their life on Instagram. They'd share their life and they would make money. And I'm like, wait, how is that even possible? And also that is the movie I'm meant to play in. So I actually reached out to someone. This was 2014. Okay. This is 10 years ago. And I was like, girl, how are you just sharing your life and making money? She's like, let's meet up. And she told me what I had never even heard of before, which was network marketing. Can you believe that there was a time in life when people didn't even know what network marketing was? Well, that was 10 years ago. And she's explaining all this. And I'm like, whoa, this is so easy. I can totally do this. So I sign up and I start sharing my life. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, Chris, but share your life and people will buy from you. Have you ever heard that before? Mm-hmm. Share your life and people will buy. Share your life, people will buy. And I'm like, okay, I'm fun. I can talk to anybody. I can totally be super dramatic and engaging. Easy. Well, I did just that and I got a lot of engagement, but I got absolutely no sales. And my dad was watching me. I love him so much. And he said, Macy, like, I'm so proud of you. I see you're working so hard. And I just have to point out something. He said, you're coming off a little bit ashamed to sell. And I'm like, what do you mean ashamed? He's like, I feel like you're hiding. I'm like, hiding? I literally show my face and live on Instagram. The last thing I'm doing is hiding right now. He said, but I never hear you talk about your product. I was like, Dad, that's called curiosity marketing. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that, Chris?
No,
Curiosity
I'm
marketing.
not.
Okay, well, that's what everyone would call it. They're like, it's called curiosity marketing. You basically share your whole life to make people curious about you, and then they ask about your product. Well, that never ended up happening for me. But when I kind of went home and I went to sleep and I started thinking about what he said, I'm like, man, I think he's right. I really think he's right here. I think I'm ashamed to sell. And so I went back to him with my tail between my legs because I either had to like get another job or like make this work. And I was not about to go back into this hamster wheel of a life. And he said, okay, I will teach you how to sell under one condition. I said, okay, what? He said, you go all in. He said, put away the podcast, put away the YouTube, put away the books, come sit in my office every day and practice with me and only do what I tell you to do. I said, yes, sir. And that's exactly what I did. I sat beside him for 6 months straight. And he would teach me a little concept and we would role play back and forth. And then I'd go on Instagram and I'd implement in the wild. I would do exactly what I learned, but just on Instagram stories. And I would just do this rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I was just playing this game. And Chris, you know what it felt like? It felt like I had the rules to a game. And I don't know if you've ever played a board game where you're the only one that knows how to play and no one else does. Talk about an edge. Talk about an advantage.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one who knows how to play this game. Like legitimately, everyone's just curiosity marketing, just throwing spaghetti against the wall. I know how to do this. And 6 months later, I was just playing. I wasn't even looking at the scoreboard. I didn't even I knew I was making sales, but I wasn't really keeping track that much. And I realized I'd made my first $10,000 month 6 months in. And when you're making $35,000 a year in ministry, I mean, I didn't even know 10,000 a month went together. I didn't even know that was a thing. And my brain exploded. I was like, oh, but I'll tell you my epiphany moment. My epiphany moment wasn't then $10,000 a month. It was that I didn't change what I was doing. I just did what I was already doing with skill. Like I still was sharing, but I wasn't just sharing, I was selling with skill. And what was so ironic is that I felt like people were more engaged, they were more bought in, and they were so like locked in more than ever when I was actually selling. And I think I used to think that selling would mean I would sacrifice relationships. But when you sell identities, when you sell beliefs, when you sell values, when you sell thoughts, that makes people even more bought in to you because they're like, I believe what she believes. And that was the biggest game changer for me. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh no, like I have something lethal. I have something so insanely valuable. It is my duty and it is my complete like obligation to get this into the hands of people because all I could see is how people couldn't sell. I'd walk into a store, I'd walk into a coffee shop, I'd walk in all these places and I'm like, oh my gosh, if they just knew what I knew, their life would be so much better. And so I kind of just felt like, well, crap, like I got to do this. And that was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And we've been at it ever since. And here we are.
If you could give an example of how you shifted your content from being just sharing to actually
Yeah.
selling, what would that look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, a great, let me like do this as like an influencer would. Do you follow any fashion influencers, Chris? I don't know if you do.
Real men, real style, actually. Yes, I
Okay,
do.
perfect. So a lot of women, like if they're an influencer, they will be like, oh, I love this cardigan. I love that it's yellow. I love that it's really soft. I love that it just really complements any outfit and it's just I can just throw it on when I'm a little chilly and I am going to take it to the coffee shop. So let's go, whatever, kind of sharing what they love. Selling sounds a little more something like this. This cardigan, it's actually in the color primrose yellow. And what this means is that it's going to complement that like really cool undertone skin tone. And ultimately, it's going to harmonize with all of your closet. In fact, I know that a lot of people that follow me right now, they have had their color analysis done. And one of the best parts about color analysis is you know how to shop for your skin tone. And this will harmonize with the cool undertone skin tone so that you can throw it on with any outfit and it'll be so convenient. So you're really like selling convenience, you're selling how it's going to harmonize with your closet, you're really selling the value of the cardigan, not just saying I love this cardigan because it's perfect for me. Salespeople, and we call ourselves sales girls. Sales girls die to themselves forever. Like that's part of becoming a sales girl is nothing is ever about you ever again. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your life. Nobody cares about your offer. No one cares about you. They care about what's in it for them. And officially, as a sales girl, like we actually kind of play this game of how can you not say the word I at all in a conversation? Like, how can you just take I, we, my, me, us out and ask them more questions and talk about, hey, this is why your life is about to be so much better with this thing, period. And what's so awesome about this is you hear their name, you hear your own name. And I've said your name a few times, Chris, and I'm sure it makes you kind of perk up a little bit, doesn't it? You're like, oh, she said my name. You say their name and you say you. And it locks them in immediately. And that is the power of being a sales girl, dying to yourself, talking about things in terms of the other person, and specifically talking about the payoff. I cannot tell you how many people just constantly talk about their process. They talk about their offer. They talk about their framework. They talk about their program, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about that at all. Just talk about the pay. I'll give you an example. I actually was flying private recently. I was flying with my coach, Myron Golden, and the pilot, we had like a delay because there was some rain up ahead, which already doesn't make me feel good that there's a weather delay and we're flying private. Like, I don't feel great about it. I'm just, putting on a brave face. But the pilot, he is trying to like make us feel confident. And so what he does is he brings his iPad out and he shows us this map that shows us the storm on the map and shows us how he's going to go around it. His process of getting us safe. And I'm going to be honest, that made me even more sick to my stomach. Like, it looked complicated. The storm looked really big. And I didn't feel and all he had to do was actually put the iPad away and look at us and say, hey, when we leave in an hour, you will get home safe. That's all he has to say. With confidence, with conviction, with certainty, and with a smile. And that would make me feel so good. In fact, he was showing me the iPad and like zooming in. And I just looked at him and I said, hey, I really trust you. Can you just look at me and tell me we're going to be safe? He's like, oh yeah, you're going to be safe. I'm like, that's all I need to hear. Thank you so much. And that's what salespeople do. It's like good salespeople have the conviction and the belief, and they're able to look at someone in the eye with certainty and say, you are going to have the payoff that you desire to have. You're safe here. Come on, get on the plane.
There's so much to unpack there. First, we got to come back into the cardigan, because when you first described it, I was like, to your point, I was like, cool, that's great. You got a cool cardigan. I don't really care. And then when you started selling it, I was like, okay, now I want a cardigan. And I have had no desire to own a cardigan up until you just started describing it and how it was going to impact me and what it was going to do for me. So mind blown just in that. And then you also mentioned your coach, Myron Golden. And this was something I'm glad you brought up, because I wanted to ask you about this. You've mentioned before that you were getting some coaching from Myron, and he said, I don't tell many people this, but you need a VIP offer. And you were like, what? I need a VIP offer. I don't have a VIP offer. What's going on? But he said it in a way where he believed in you so much, where he's like, this is going to work for you. And I remember you coming away from it saying, if he believes in me that much, then I should be able to believe in me that much. And it made me think, like, how much is our scarcity mindset holding us back from success? But also, can you be a good salesperson if you're operating from this scarcity mindset?
That's interesting. When someone like Myron Golden says something to you like that, like anyone could say, you can do this, right? But with someone with such deep roots, and he's so careful with his words, when he says something like that, you know he means it. And so it's not just the fact that someone said it, was the fact that he said it, you know? And so that's a huge testament of like you becoming the person that when you say something, it means something to someone else. And that doesn't happen overnight. That happens with every day, like doing what you say you're going to do and growing your roots in the ground so that you can become a shade tree that people want to sit under. So when I first found Myron, I saw his offers. He had like a $27,000, a $55,000, and a $350,000 offer.
Mm.
And when I saw the $350,000, my first thought was, that's a fake offer for sure. There's in no universe in which that is a real offer. And why people would do that is to anchor the other offers. Like when you see 350,000, the 55,000 don't look too bad. It actually looks pretty cheap. And so sometimes people will do that. They'll just put this astronomical offer that no one would buy so that they buy the one that they want them to buy. I thought for sure, there's no way. But then I would think, I'm like, okay, but if it were real, like if it were a thing, certainly not for me. And I didn't think it wasn't for me in terms of the price. Like I knew if we wanted to have that offer, we could, but I honestly thought about it in terms of the people in that room. Like if people were in that room, there's no way I could run with them. That's what my thought was. Like there's no way I could play in their arena. They are running on a completely different level than me. And, you know, when Myron, so we did his challenge and he was, we kind of shared just a little bit about our offer. And he said, he didn't just say you need a VIP day, which the VIP day is a $350,000 offer, by the way. He didn't just say you need a VIP day. He said, I've never said this to anyone before on a challenge. He said, but you need the $350,000. You need a $350,000 VIP day. But then he said this, when you do, you will have between a $4 and $9 million year next year. That's the key. That's the key. Not you just need it, but when you do, here's the payoff. Hello, payoff. Here's what could happen for you. And that 4 to 9 million, like what that 4 to 9 million like means to me personally is like a breakthrough that we've been working towards for 5 years, right? And when he said that, I was like, whoa, instantly I was like, oh, I do belong there. Instantly, I was like, I do belong there. In subconsciously, I was like, okay, we're going to figure this out. We ended up buying the $350,000 offer, but it's just crazy how that statement, and this is why selling is so important. That statement put us in a future focused, like mindset, right? It wasn't like, oh, we just spent 350,000. It was, oh, we're about to do 4 to 9 million. It kept us future focused, full of anticipation. And I will tell you, if you want your life to change, you just go wire $350,000 and that'll change your life in itself. When they're looking at you and they're like, you're sure Skillionaire Enterprises, that's who you're wiring this to. And you're like, gulp, yes. Just go wire somebody some money and it'll change you forever. Okay, so we wired the money on a Thursday. We got on a plane that Sunday. There happened to be some sort of event. We went to the event, Chris. We went to the event and literally before anyone even said a word on a stage, okay, we're just brushing shoulders with these people. And they're just talking about this like thing that they're doing. They're talking about a challenge that they're running and how challenges are so profitable to this amazing sales mechanism. And me and Kat are looking at each other and we're like, we gotta figure this out. So we open the portal and we see, oh, there's like stuff about challenges and what, you know, we just kind of get the gist. The next week is we're about to do a challenge next week. Monday was day one. Did not know what we were doing at all. When I say at all, I mean at all. Did not know what we were doing at all. We just did our sales girl thing in the best way we knew how. And 2 weeks after we wired the 350,000, we actually made the $350,000 back within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks. Okay. I say this not to impress you. I say it to impress upon you the power of selling the payoff. Because he did not say you need a $350,000 VIP day. He said, when you do, you have a $4 to $9 million year. And ever since the way I have been journaling about that $4 to $9 million year, that $4 to $9 million year, that $4 to $9 million, like that is where my obsession has been from that payoff that he seeded as a possibility. And we actually just hosted our Salesgirls Summit event, and we did a $1.2 million hour, Chris.
Wow.
Like, and we used to do what we were stuck at was $1.2 million in a year. And we did in a year what we did in an hour. What we usually do in a year, we did in an hour. Okay. And we're on track to do about 5 million this year. This is the year that he said. And I'm like, if he didn't say that payoff, like what? And I think a lot of people get nervous about saying the payoff, like the 4 to 9 million. Talk about scarcity, right? What if they don't hit it? What if I say that they could have it and then they don't? But like, what if they do? Like, what if they do hit it? And when you're talking about the payoff, you're not saying I guarantee you'll have this. You're saying, hey, there could be a way. Like you could, if you do this, you could have this payoff. And the thing about humans is our focus is like gravity. It naturally goes to negative, negative, negative. I'm about to spend $350,000. What if this doesn't work? What if I embarrass myself? What if I lose it all? What if I lose my reputation? You think all these negative things. And your job as a salesperson is to keep them focused on what if it does work? What if it is possible? What if you do hit $4 to $9 million? What if the payoff is even better than you could ever, ever, ever imagine? What if you go all in and like actually hit the $9 million? Then would you be embarrassed? Like keeping them focused on what's possible because you move towards your most dominant thought. And so if you can keep their most dominant thought in the possibility, they're more likely to have that. And that's why like people get so obsessed with their offer and their process, and they talk about their offer and their process. And it gets people just in this rut of the to-dos, not in like, oh, but here's what's possible. And that's why you want to keep your clients not only selling them on the actual offer and the payoff, but keeping them focused so that they keep working and they can get closer to that payoff that they want.
I hope that you're enjoying this episode brought to you by Kartra. Kartra is the all-in-one platform designed to help you grow your business effortlessly. From building sales pages and membership sites to managing email campaigns and handling checkouts, Kartra has everything you need. With Kartra, you can create stunning websites, engage your audience through video and webinars, and offer memberships that truly transform lives. Plus, you can track your leads, automate your marketing, and make smart decisions with my favorite part, the advanced analytics. Try Kartra free for 30 days using the link down below and start simplifying your business growth and get back to what you do best. Now, back to our conversation. There's so much here, and I'm loving the direction this is going. You are in a very specific position to speak into this next next question that I have, which is First, what was the expected ROI on the $350,000 when you wired that? And then at the time that you sent it over, were you looking at this as I just bought coaching or I just invested in myself? What was the perspective on
that? The expected ROI, it was $4 to $9 million because that's what he said. And I will say, Chris, like on the plane on the way to that mastermind event, I was about to say I was nauseous on the plane. I'm like always a little bit nauseous. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I'm always a little sick to my stomach.
I can actually relate to that because as many of these interviews I've done, I'm always nervous and I always feel prepared. And I'm like, am I doing justice to the person I'm interviewing? So I get that.
I think you're doing a great job, Chris.
Well, thank you.
You are. But I was like so nauseous. Like, that's what I'm saying, wiring the money. Someone said, what did they say? They said, I don't need your money, but you need to write that check. Like, I don't need you to pay me, but you need to pay somebody because of how much it changes you. The thing is like people want to charge people, but they're unwilling to pay, so they're unable to charge. When you are willing to pay, and push your chips in and bet on yourself, you will be able to charge people as well. And so that $350,000, like, yes, it was for coaching, it was for mentorship, it was for so many things, but it was really like a symbol of pushing my chips in, like it really was. And it's just a huge deal. It's a huge deal to bet on yourself. And one thing about me, Chris, is I make everything worth it. Like that is a belief that I have to my core, to my bones. Like I get the most, I squeeze the most out of every investment that I make. I don't think about, it's kind of like a game I play with myself. It's like, I don't try to make the investment back. I try to see how many times I can times the investment back. And I try to compete with myself of like, okay, if I just spent this, how many X's can I return on this? And I always have the mindset of like, I'm going to be the best student. I'm going to be the most improved story. I'm going to be the story that they're going to tell on the stage and their podcast and their episodes. I'm going to be the star student if my life depends on it. So that is how I think when I invest in something is like, watch out. I'm all in. Now getting there, I have this like gut feeling and I know I want to do it and I got to kind of logically justify it. But then once I'm decided, I'm nauseous and I'm all in. And that's what I ask my students as well. I'm like, hey, listen, when you come in, I do not want a single question, a single doubt at all. Like once this program is over, once you're done, question, doubt, like change your mind all you want. But when you're in my arena, you're all in. Because any energy spent negotiating is just energy, like negotiating in your own mind. Was this worth it? Should I have done this? Is this right? Do I want to get that energy could just be all in into actually like getting a result that you want. And so that's what I encourage my students to do is to put away the doubt, revisit it later. But for right now, we're going in.
How do you address the fear aspect of it? And I ask this as something I'm going through currently.
Yeah.
My wife actually just launched her first digital business this morning. It actually went live this morning, which is
Yay!
I know it's so exciting and timely of this episode. And so we've been building the website, building everything, and she's offering a service, right? It's myofunctional therapy. And 3 days ago, she had somebody reach out via Instagram like, hey, I want to run my son through your therapy program. This is what I want to do. And she was like, what do I do? And I was like, send them the calendar link and let them sign up. Let's get going. And there was this fear of like, can I actually deliver? Which I know she can. She's been in dentistry for 17 years. She's fantastic. She knows exactly what she's doing, but there was still that fear side of it. And then there was like, I can't sell this course, this therapy, because I don't have this website. I don't have this. I don't have everything set up. And it was like, no, sales is just talking to people. But there was still the fear of like, can I sell? Can I deliver? All these doubts that I didn't know how to coach her through. I didn't know how to help her overcome.
Wow. So I'm so proud of her, first of all. It's just such a big deal. And you said her background is in dentistry. Okay, so really smart people have a little bit of a disadvantage in selling. Do you notice how a lot of times really good salespeople like didn't graduate school, didn't make the best grades, like
Yep.
they just got by barely. And I think it's because I'm going to say we, because I had to work so hard in school. Naturally, I was not very smart. But I move on emotion. I act on gut, and I don't need a single logical piece to make it make sense. And really smart people need it all buttoned and tied up before they can move forward, typically. And so the good news is that the way our brains are made and the way our brains work is in order to make a buying decision, you use your limbic part of your brain. And what's crazy about the limbic part of your brain, get this, the limbic part of your brain doesn't even have capacity for language. So when someone's like, why do you love them? And you're like, I don't know. It's just a gut feeling. It's like, yeah, you can't even, you can't put words to it. Why do you love your kid? And you just start crying. You're like, I literally don't have words. I just love them so much. That's your limbic brain. And so when really smart people try to speak in smart language and they start speaking with their neocortex part of their brain, the part of that actually has capacity for language, they're not speaking to the limbic because they're speaking so logically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the good news is that you can reconcile both of those brains and meet in the middle. And so she's just going to have to like practice like using that limbic part of her brain and working from that like kind of gut feeling from of her brain. I don't know if this is helpful for her or not, but we sold a $150,000 offer. We sold 5 of them before they were even made. We actually just had to like whip up a purchase page real quick so that someone could put their deposit in, and we had nothing made. In fact, we're still kind of finalizing the details after a week after 5 people have bought. I actually encourage people to sell and then figure it out versus figure it out and then sell. Because what ends up happening is they will create this like perfect offer and they'll sell it, and 10 out of 10 times you will find things wrong with it. You will have to start over. You will have to fix it instead of just building it with the actual ideal person that wants it. And what's cool is that this is actually a benefit to the person buying it because they're going to get such pristine attention from her. When she is building it at the same time as she's already sold and delivering, she by far is going to like over deliver a result than she ever could have imagined simply from working with the person as she built it. And one thing I'll say about fear, there's really no such thing as fear of failure, because fear is when there is a real and present danger in front of you. That is the only time you can feel like real fear. So if there's a bear running after you, fear all day long. But this imagined danger that's in her mind right now, it's actually just a little bit of anxiety. And anxiety comes from, now this is really important here, Chris. Like if you don't tell her anything, tell her this. Your future, the only place your future exists is in your mind. Like really think about that. It takes just as much energy to think about best case scenario as it does worst case scenario. Same energy. Literally, you could think about worst case scenario all day long and it'll send you in a spiral, or you could think about best case scenario all day long and it'll send you into like possibility, right? And so her thinking like, what if it doesn't work? What if I can't deliver? Like coach her and be like, okay, but what if, I hear you. Like I totally hear you. It's so important to feel really confident in what you're doing. And what if it were to work out better than you could have ever imagined? Let's just entertain that for just a second. I like to call it equal airtime. We give the negative possibility so much airtime and we think about all the problems that could come up. Let's just give equal airtime to all the possible good, possibilities that could happen and really live there, because you want to help her get this feeling of anticipation of good things are coming. She will sell so much better. She will be so much more confident, so much more certain with that mindset in her mind.
That's amazing, and it's like you just offered a amazing masterclass. Then I hope that so many people get so much out of that because I know that I did.
Good.
I
I'm so
appreciate it.
proud of her. Tell her I'm so proud of her and I'm pulling for her.
Oh, she's going to listen to this in about a week
Good.
and a half when it comes out. So you just
Good.
told her yourself.
Good.
I know that you actually have an offer for our listeners and our viewers today. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. And listen, I got lots of offers, but I will tell you the one that is going to give you the quickest, biggest bang for your buck. And it is called the Sell Your Offer Challenge. And I'll tell you why this is so powerful. So it is a live 5-day experience with myself. And Kat also does them right now. I'm doing most of them. She just had a baby because she's got to do her mom sales girl thing. But people, when I say people are having $27,000 like sales weeks after this challenge, someone had a $12,000 day. Like the insane results that are coming out of this challenge is insane. And it is $297. That's all it is for $297. And that includes a whole hour of VIP coaching every single day. So it's 5 hours of VIP coaching and 5 hours of content. And what's so cool about the Sell Your Offer Challenge is each day it builds on itself. So you're going to learn how to sell your offer without even talking about your offer. You're going to learn what persuasion actually means, how to talk about the value. We say the word value all the time, like build value, add value, give value. It's like, what does that even literally mean? And how can I pull the value out of my offer and only speak about that? How to know exactly what to say about your offer, how to sell to the masses, and how to ultimately be a guide and drive home that final decision. And I'm telling you, like we have a whole review board on Trustpilot The reviews are insane with how much people are winning. So that 100% biggest bang for your buck, sell your offer challenge. Just be sure you are all in, because it only works if you go all in.
And the last question I love to ask all our guests is, what is one lesson in life that you want to share with the listener?
Chris, you can't just drop that. One lesson. One lesson. Chris, do you have kids?
Not yet.
You don't have kids. Well, this is for your wife. She is doing her business, and I know you guys might have kids potentially. One of like the biggest lessons that I have learned in entrepreneurship and motherhood, I have a 1-year-old and I have a 3-year-old. And I really grew up thinking I was going to be a stay-at-home mom my whole life. And then I kind of felt this burden of, it felt like a burden at the time of like this skill set that was going to change the game for people. Now it feels like a mission and a calling, but at the time it literally felt like a burden. And I'm like, crap, like I'm supposed to be a mom. Like, how am I supposed to carry this mission how is this supposed to all go together? I could not wrap my mind around it. And so this is specifically for the women in business who feel like they have one foot in, one foot out. They have a foot on the gas, they have a foot on the brake because they feel like they don't go together. These are two separate arenas and they have to be looked at separately. Motherhood and entrepreneurship are the perfect combination. And I'll tell you why. Ed Milet says that the most insidious form of child neglect is a parent that doesn't go after their dreams. And the word insidious, that means sneaky, like undercover, indirect. And why is that? Because I think so many women think, okay, in order to quote, not neglect my child, I need to neglect myself, right? And like put everything to the side so that I can only be with my kid. And I know that that is definitely a calling for so many women. And if that is your calling, that is your calling. But this is for the woman who has like I call it like the music in your heart. You have this pull, you have this desire, you have this mission. And you're like, how am I supposed to do them both? Your child, if that is in your heart, your child needs you to go on the journey to become the person that your child actually needs. So, Chris, that nauseous feeling that you feel, okay, that is you going on this journey of entrepreneurship. And as you go on this journey, you become someone totally different. You are transformed. And I will tell you, like, this journey that I've been on as an entrepreneur, like, I am so excited for the day that my child is failing at something. And I can sit there and look at him and say, buddy, I literally know what you're going through. The day that he is being rejected in some form, I can sit by him and say, buddy, I know, been there. The day he feels so much discomfort and he's trying something and he wants to quit, but he should, like, I can look at him and say, buddy, I can like coach you through that. And I know exactly what you're going through. And there's a day that I'm going to be able to look at him and say, you can be anything and you can do anything. And he's going to know that I mean it because I went for it too. And when you're an entrepreneur and you're a sales girl, like, you can create the life that you want. The first thing I said on this podcast, I said, I have to dip out at this time because I'm going to pick up my kid, right? Because that is like the most precious time that I'm with him. But when I'm not with him, baby, I'm becoming the person so that when he looks at me as a mom one day, he's like, I actually need her more as I get older than I need her less because of who she is, because of the journey she went on. And that has been, I wish someone gave me that message 10 years ago. And so that's why I want to tell all the women entrepreneurs out there today.
That is an amazing one lesson that you have left us with. Where can people go to connect with you?
Go to the Salesgirls official on Instagram. That's where you'll find our YouTube, our podcast, and that was also where you'll find our challenge link. It's like go.sellyyourofferchallenge.com, but that'll be linked on Instagram. And Chris, I'll send you the link as well that you can drop in the show notes. But I highly, highly recommend coming to that challenge, spending 5 days with me, and getting your mind completely rearranged from the inside out when it comes to selling, persuading, and making money.
Mm-hmm. And for everyone listening, I will make sure to put those links down below in the show notes so that you can connect with Macy and sign up for the challenge. And if you like this podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, share it with your friends so that we can continue to get amazing guests on here like Macy. So Macy, thank you so much for your time today. I know you got to get going. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Chris.